Welcome to City of London Corporation's July webinar about the COLPAI construction works. Tonight, we will update you on progress since the last webinar in April and provide information about the future works on site. After our presentation, we will hold a Q&A session. Feel free to write any questions in the chat function at the bottom at any time, and we will answer these at the end. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on the COLPAI website next week. My name's Jessica Stewart and I'm from ComCom UK. We've been working with City of London Corporation on the communications for the construction. I'll pass over to Michael Gwither-Jones.
Good evening, everybody. Michael Gwither-Jones, Head of New Developments and Special Projects for Community and Children's Services. I think Sandra is going to introduce herself.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sandra Brown. I'm Senior Communications Officer and I work with Michael Gwither-Jones in New Developments and Special Projects team. Thank you. I think, is it Mark? You're going to be next?
Okay. Yeah, my name is Mark Lohman. I work for the City Surveyors Department in the Corporation of London.
That leaves me, it's John McLeod here, Project Director for ISG.
Thank you. Just in terms of tonight's webinar protocol, just a quick reminder that the team is here today to answer questions and discuss the works on the COLPAI construction site only. This meeting is not designed to be solely for debating planning related matters, which should be raised with the appropriate planning officers. And we request participants be respectful of all the attendees so the webinar can run smoothly. And I'll hand over to John to undertake the presentation.
Okay, good evening everyone again. So just run through the normal slides, starting off with a couple of views of the outside of the building. So first one there on the left is looking at the north elevation. Still have the mast climber in action on that elevation. It's at the top of the elevation, as you can see. We've finished all the brickwork to level 4 there now, and we're installing the GRC. So the sort of beige bits that you can see either side of the green windows, that's GRC elements. The windows aren't actually green, they've got a film over them. That's a protective film. And then you can see on the front elevation, we've got some netting up there. That's just a safety netting, just to ensure that we've got a sort of triple protection, if you like, in terms of anything coming off the building. And then on the south elevation, you can see again, you can see the mast climber in action there, and you can see the difference in colour there. The sort of paler colour grey is the GRC elements that are now going on, starting from the top band and working our way down on the columns. If we go to the next slide, please. Similar photos, one on the east elevation. So again, I won't focus on that, kind of viewed that on the first photo, but the west elevation one there shows that we've now removed our hoist and the scaffold tower and the external staircase that ran up the building there, and we're starting to infill those sections. So all the balustrade now is being infilled, as you can see. The only sections that are to be done is where the hoist runoff was. Low levels, we are installing brickwork and panelling with a scissor lift, and you can see that scissor lift there in operation towards the bottom right of the picture. We haven't installed the cradles yet because that scaffold hasn't been fully removed, but the next thing to be installed next week will be the cradles on that elevation. And then we start to bring the GRC across and complete that elevation and its finishes. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide shows on the left-hand side, that is a picture of the boarding, a typical picture of the boarding that will be installed, soffit boarding with one of the external lights. and the boarding there hasn't got the that's not an exact sample. It's a close to match. The walkway there will have paving on it when it's completed. The soffit boarding there just masks those high level services which you can see running down the walkways. And there as well on the right hand side you can see a close up photograph of the balustrade there. Okay, next slide please. This slide is actually of our sample apartment. It gives people an idea of all of the sort of general standard finishes that will be going into the apartments. So you see on the right hand side, that's your entrance hallway with bedroom and bedroom and bathroom off of that hallway and service cupboard. The centre image there shows the kitchen and diner. Kitchen diner area with appliances. So you get a cooker, hob and hood. Obviously sink and tap there you can see. There's also space for dishwashers and fridges. And that's those are Howden's wall units and base units. And on the right hand side you see sample bathroom. So subway tile that's used around both bathroom and the kitchen to give some continuity there. That floor is tiled, whereas the floor finishes in the flat and in the hallway are a linoleum finish. Okay, next slide, please. This is a photograph of a duplex staircase in construction. And just an image of another kitchen. This one's just got some protection over it and it's in construction at the moment. But it's just, there are different kitchen designs for the different flats, obviously. So 5 duplexes that are on levels 1 and 2. And there are different versions of the kitchen diner sort of layout. So it just goes another image of that. Next slide, please. So this slide here just shows again some kitchens in progress, sanitary ware being installed, and the right-hand side one is where we've got to on a number of flats now. We have painted them what we call white boxed, and then from that point they get fully decorated. So our first flats are now going to be offered for inspection, client inspection from next week. So that starts the sort of snagging and inspection process and the closeout of those units. Next slide, please. These 2 slides, the one on the left there shows a typical lift lobby. That's level 8. The ceiling itself, there's a full ceiling that goes in there that hides those services. You've got 2 lifts that feed the floors. On the right hand side of that you see some service cupboards, so that's where all the services rise through the building and then they distribute into the lift lobby and down onto the hallway. So can I just go back one there, Jessica, thanks. And then on the right hand side, that is a ground floor workspace. So we are going to utilize those workspaces for a little bit of welfare until the end of the job, but they will be their future use now, so they will be fitted out by whoever takes ownership of them or leases those units, but they are now being created at the moment. So you can see there on the floor, that's a screed finish that's gone in, block wall at the back and some plasterboard walls at the side. And because there's flats above those units, there's some double insulated soffit there to provide the warmth to the flats above. Yeah, you can flick on now, Jessica, thanks. Okay, for anybody interested in the service distribution, those are a couple of the plant rooms. What you see there on the left hand side, sorry, is the boiler room. and the units, the square units at the back there, are actually the boilers. The small, quite small units, and you can see that the pipe work now and all the pumps are installed. They're being lagged. That's like an armoured lagging that goes in and insulates and protects that pipe work. So those plant rooms now are very well advanced. That room on the right, the sprinkler room, is actually in operation at the moment. So that sprinkler room is in operation since completion of the school. So that the sprinkler room feeds the school and the residential building. Next slide, please. Okay, we've got this slide in because I'm sure you'll be aware of the site hutting there. So we are now at the point of starting the landscaping works, and the cabins will be removed at the end of the month, at the end of July, start of August. So we go through a process of removing those cabins, also taking away those temporary substations, and then we progressively commence the landscaping works. So those will start disappearing from your vision in the next month or so. I'm sure you'd be pleased to see them go. Next slide, please. Okay, so the general working hours still Monday to Friday 8 to 6 and Saturday 9 till 2. In terms of COVID, we're aware that we've actually got cases increasing at the moment. There is a little bit of a surge in the capital again. So we are still managing our welfare with increased levels of hygiene and trying to separate our workers as much as possible by sort of staggering their break times at the moment. But yeah, the guidance, HSC guidance now is really historical guidance, but ISG still try and work to an increased level of hygiene and separation with the workforce if we possibly can. Next slide, please. So key milestones coming up: removal of the hoist and mast climbers to the east and west elevations in July. So that's actually happened now. So the hoist and all of the scaffolding goes by the end of, or all of the scaffolding, the hoist is gone. All the scaffolding that fed the tower around it, that will all be removed on Friday. Mast climbers have gone on the east and west elevations and now being replaced by cradles, which are roof mounted. The site huts, as we said, move in July, and that commences the start of the landscaping process. And then once the landscaping is completed, the school entrance operational from Golden Lane upon completion of the scheme. So that concludes the little progress update on where we are. Hopefully those images give you a feel for where we are internally in some of the units.
And this is just a quick update on the naming for the new residential building. We are partway through the consultation, and this last part will run up until the 27th of July. We have 5 possible names, and you can register your preference by either visiting our website or calling the 0800 free phone number. You could also email us on info@thecolpai-project.co.uk. These are the names: Iron Foundry Court, Cherry Tree Court, Domingo House, Black Swan Court, Schoolhouse Court, and at the moment Iron Foundry Court is out ahead with 3 votes. Black Swan, Schoolhouse and Cherry Tree Courts all have 2 votes, and Domingo House only has 1. So we would like to get more people involved if possible, and please do take part and also talk to your neighbours. We'll now move on to the Q&A. We've got some that have come in. The first one is for you, John. What is the height of the railings outside the flats in the walkways?
The heights of the railings are a standard height for building control compliance, and off the top of my head I can't remember what that is. It's I think 1.1 or 1.50 meters, but it's a standard height for building control.
We can confirm that in the notes as a post-meeting note.
Yeah, good one, memories.
Another one for you. I think this is maybe when you said that the client was going to be looking around next week, I think that's City of London Corporation, isn't it, to start the snagging, not potential users?
Oh yes, absolutely. So the process that we go through is we complete the flats to our satisfaction. Once we've snagged them, we snagged and inspected them, we then offer them to the client who has clerk of works who attend site and inspect on their behalf. So the flats go through a number of inspections. So yes, it's not ready for anybody else to see at this point in time.
The question was about disabled access and wheelchair access, and when people can view that. When will that be possible? I suppose that's the same as when it'll be available to view for any other potential residents.
I think so, yeah. There are a number of accessible flats, but they wouldn't be available to view at this point in time.
And then that leads us on to one for you, Michael. When will the letting policy be available?
So what we can say is that there's going to be a split nomination on the building. So 33 flats will be subject to nomination by Islington, 33 by the city. So obviously that's a split nomination. In terms of the actual letting, there's a local lettings policy. So I think residents of Golden Lane can express an interest if they wish to select one of the flats or whatever, or move or apply to go into them. But obviously there will be I think there is already a waiting list. But if anybody wants further information on the lettings policy, we can provide that.
Lovely. If they email the website.
Yeah, if they email the website, we can provide further information. Yeah.
Lovely. Could we please know when all the works will be completed and the building will be given to the public? That's for you again, Michael, I think. When will the building be available for use? So
the current position is that the contractor is aiming for completion by November. So on that basis, if that is achieved, we would expect residents to start moving in December/January.
Lovely. How many new homes will be created, and what is it says breakage of the bedrooms in these flats? I think maybe the breakdown of bedrooms. How many 1 bed, 2 bed, 3 bed, etc.? Michael, is that something you have your fingers on?
So I don't have the exact numbers. All I can say is there are 66 flats of various sizes, 3, 2 and 1 bed flats. I can't remember the exact breakdown. Doesn't Mark can answer that question?
Apologies, Michael. I don't off the top of my head remember the breakdown. It's been such a long time since.
Yeah.
We had that information.
We'll put that as a post-meeting note in the notes. Can you explain the approach that you're taking to the boundary wall between Basterfield Access Road and the site? Will it be brick plus greenery, or greenery only? And please explain the approach to landscaping. I'll hand this one over to Mark.
So the approved design is brick on the bottom, railings on the top, and landscaping in front. So the section that's still to be completed, there is a gate, an access gate in there, but where there's not an access gate, which is a full height railing gate, as I say, it will be brick bottom, railings at the top. If you look a little bit further along Basterfield Service Road towards the school, you can kind of see a built example of what you're going to get. So it will be a replica of that, really.
Thank you very much. Will there be any additional parking spaces created for occupants?
No.
Lovely. No parking. I believe that there will be a multi-use play area. Will this be available to Golden Lane Estate residents and their children? And I'll hand that over to Michael.
So the MUGA is essentially managed by the school. So the school obviously will be using the MUGA, and it'll also be available for use by the residents of the new residential block. The Section 106 agreement, which has been signed, specifies that obviously the amenity for the new block is important. So no, the new MUGA will not be available for other residents apart from those who will be occupying the new residential block.
Thank you. How many disabled parking spaces? Mark, would you like to answer that one?
Can we come back on that just to confirm? I think there is 2 that's allowed, but we'd need to come back. Once again, it's been such a long while since we went through the parking provisions. We need to confirm that for you.
Okay. Could my question regarding the breakdown of the bedrooms in those 66 flats be answered in the post-meeting notes? Yes. And actually that, and then a thank you, so no problem. I think that's it now in terms of questions that have come in. I'll leave it a moment longer in case anyone else has got any questions they'd like to raise. Oh, a couple more. Is there any process to discuss concerns about the boundary? For example, if the new boundary is to be built, will it match the existing brick and rail boundary at the very west end? Then this will not provide sufficient noise pollution control. So if it's to be the same as the version at the west end, it won't have enough noise abatement capabilities. I'll hand that over to you, Mark.
So as I said before, the railings boundary treatment is as approved, planning approved scheme. So it is what it is. All the acoustic treatment that was looked at planning is what we have. So that, you know, it is a brick bottom, railings on the top, and that is it, and planting in front. So the planting in front may give you some noise abatement, but there is no plan to add any further additional acoustic treatment to that railinged boundary wall.
And do you know the wall this resident's referring to, Mark, the existing brick and rail boundary at the very west end?
So the only bit I can think of is the bit that's that we've built, the bit that we built for the school. So there is already a section that's been built, which is, as I said, brick bottom, railing top, with no acoustic treatment on that. So it will be exactly the same as that. That's the only bit that I can think of that we've built.
Lovely. How will the access to the MUGA be managed? How will the school prioritise use? Michael.
So the MUGA will be managed as set out in the MUGA management plan. This document is still in draft form and has not been submitted yet to Islington. So all the protocol about managing that access will be set out in that document. Effectively, the school will be managing the MUGA, subject to specified hours of use for the residents of the residential block.
And a continuation of that question, how will the access to the MUGA be negotiated, and who will decide between resident use and community group use? And I think you've answered that. Well,
effectively, it will be Islington Council who will determine what is appropriate hours of use for the residents and what is appropriate for the school.
Thank you. How many trees are there at the front? Mark, are you able to answer that? Or maybe John?
No, I can answer that one, I think. So the original proposal was to plant a number of trees on Golden Lane directly in front of the residential tower. However, that's been changed. That was changed about 6 months ago. We went through a very extensive consultation process with Islington on how we was going to plant those trees in the footpath, and unfortunately it just wasn't possible. There's such a large number of services in the pavement that we just couldn't. There was just no way around it. We carried out a very extensive and expensive survey of all of the services to see whether there was any opportunity to plant in the pavement. There was no opportunity. We looked at on-street planting beds, but they weren't an option either because they were too large and they took up too much of what is a very narrow pavement. So I have been asked a question recently and I will check exactly what we've agreed, but I think what we've agreed to do is either commute the sum for the trees so that Islington can plant trees elsewhere on Golden Lane, or whether, or equally, we may provide the trees to be planted in another location on Golden Lane. It's just, once again, it's just not possible.
Thank you. Another question for you, Mark. When you say planting is in front of the boundary, do you mean on the Golden Lane side or the COLPAI side?
So the planting in Basterfield Service Road.
Yes.
So that's in front of the boundary on the Basterfield Service Road side. It's not, there's planting on the school side, so there's landscaping on the school side, but there is also landscaping on the Basterfield Service Road side.
Thank you very much. And there's just another comment picking up on your trees answer. The lead image is incorrect. Would you like to just flick to the lead image, please, Chris? And this was from the planning phase. So there are trees there, those won't be possible.
No, this is a very old hand-drawn CGI image at the time that we still had trees at the front, but you are correct, there is no trees now.
So we'll make sure we don't use that image again. And then another question about the railings. Do you see any problem in having railings rather than solid barriers along the walkways? What if things fall through? Is there a risk for pedestrians walking below? John, could you answer this, please? Are you there, John?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute there.
What building controls say about railings rather than solid
yeah,
barriers?
I think they're a standard building control approved railing. They are not a solid railing, but yeah, they are. It's a very common design. It has gone through a consultation process with the architects and with building control and with the planners. Yeah, that was what was approved for the scheme.
Is there a risk that things could fall through and land on people below?
Well, I think the risk of stuff in terms of those the balustrades, that the design that's been chosen, there's 100mm gap between the uprights. So there's a possibility that something could go between there. It's an unlikely possibility, but I guess children, it's not a play area. It needs to be a managed area.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like any balcony space, I would say.
Okay, thank you. And then a suggestion, perhaps those trees could be planted as part of the boundary on the Basterfield Service Road side to help enhance noise abatement. And this is one for Mark.
We can look at it. I mean, we can certainly take that away and go back to the landscape designers and see whether there is a possibility to plant some trees there.
I think there's another question here about what sort of plant will be used. So maybe that's something that we could look at for the next webinar and the next newsletter, actually some detail on exactly what will be planted.
Yeah, I mean, we've got full landscaping scheme. We could upload that if you wanted people to view it. It's available to see.
Yes, that's a good idea. We can put that on the website at the same time as the webinar, but also then pick it up in future communications. I'll write a note of that. Thank you. A question about the purpose of the gates onto the service road. What is their purpose?
They're emergency service gates, so they would be locked to no use in the case of emergencies, so that fire engines and motors.
So only for emergency vehicles?
That's it. That was a requirement for under building control to have the gates there.
Thank you. And again about the railings, has a risk assessment been done re children climbing? My concern is about special educational needs children. Mark, is that one for you?
Probably not for me. I don't think we've carried out a risk assessment on on children climbing the railings. So I'm not too sure I can answer that one.
Who would be best placed?
I think if there's concern on the railings, I think we can come back and make a statement on that after the meeting. So the designers risk assess their designs. There'll be a design risk assessment undertaken on that. I think there has been a lot of work gone into it, and you also have to consider suicide prevention as well. So there is a lot of design process that has gone into that, how the balustrade performs, but also how it looks on the building as well. So the aesthetic as well as the performance of it, and how it protects. So I would probably take that away to get a statement from our design team.
Yeah. Lovely. Thank you. Is the problem that you have encountered with space to plant trees likely to be a problem across the whole of the Golden Lane estate? Mark?
I could probably have a gut answer in that one. Clearly, we haven't done any further survey beyond the area that was directly in front of our building, but the pavement is much, much wider, so you have far greater opportunity if you move away from the area directly in front of our building. So I suspect it will be much easier to find a location to plant trees that doesn't have services in that intensity. As I said before, one of the problems we had was that there was just such a large number of services spread out across vertically and horizontally in that pavement. We did look at multiple opportunities, multiple options for various planting boxes and planting pits. There are all sorts of clever planting pits that kind of avoid services, but unfortunately, even the companies that manufacture these just said, there is just so many services in that section of pavement, there isn't really an option to plant anything there. So, and I said, we spent a lot of time with Islington, and Islington did agree in the end that it was just unreasonable to try and plant anything.
Thank you. Are the emergency gates solid or open railing design, i.e. will they be a space that noise will transfer between the school site and the estate?
No, they're not solid. They're an open railing gate.
So I think in terms of will that make noise transfer more between the school and the estate? I don't think that a solid gate would have had any positive noise abatement, would it?
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not sure whether you could have constructed a solid gate. I mean, the gate clearly has to be designed to take us to be a certain weight. Having a solid gate would be probably very difficult to get to operate. So, but the design was for an open gate to mirror the railings. That's what the planners wanted to see. That's what was approved.
Okay, thank you. Although this goes beyond the brief of this meeting, would City of London and London Borough of Islington be able to consider turning Golden Lane into a school street, Green Street? Michael?
I have no idea. We'd have to come back to you on that question.
Okay, thank you. Is there enough turning space for emergency vehicles needing to pass through the emergency gate to and from the Basterfield Service Road? Mark?
So all of the turning circles, all of the detail that was submitted as part of the application was carried out. There was a company that we used to do that. I forget the name of them now. So all I can do is say yes, that would have been taken into consideration.
All of the tracking, okay. And a question about the school entrance on Golden Lane. Will the school use the entrance on Golden Lane from September or not until the building is finished?
No, the school will be offered the entrance on Golden Lane once the building is completed. Unfortunately, it's not possible to do a kind of partial handover of that space. Yeah, when the building's open.
Thank you. That was the last question. I'll give it a few moments in case there are any more. I think there are some elements there that we can come back on and provide more information on on the website. We can upload the landscaping plan, and we'll also include a bit more information on the breakdown of flats and the design of the railings in the post-meeting notes. Any further questions? No? Okay, well, I will bring this session to an end. As I said, the webinar will be on the website next week. And please encourage everyone you know to take part in the naming consultation. We do have 2 more quick questions. Does the Golden Lane Estate Office manage the building? So this will be for the new building.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it will do. Great. And someone would appreciate a longer discussion on the issue of greening the wider area. If you could email the info@ email address, we can certainly pick that up with you directly. I'd like to thank everyone for coming this evening, and I'd like to thank the panelists for their time. Have a very good evening all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.